Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now this is the Asus HD 4350 graphics card. It features 512MB of DDR2 RAM and is clocked at 600MHz. Now back when this released in late 2008, you probably would have bought one of these if you were looking for a cheap solution in a graphics adapter, something like that, or you just wanted to play some pretty low-end titles and you didn't mind having to turn the resolution way down. If you're looking for something to compare it to, then this is probably about 10% worse than Nvidia's GeForce 210, so I hope that gives you a rough idea of what you can expect from performance. Today we're going to be pushing this thing to its absolute limit and seeing just how it copes with a few older and then some more modern titles as well. So aside from the initial specs, you'll see it's got this pretty cool stylish cooler on the front and it's a very small card. It makes literally no noise whatsoever, and although Asus recommend a 300 watt power supply, you could easily run this thing on half of that. It would probably still make an okay solution for an HTPC build as well, but with all that out the way, let's see how it performs with a few games. So we started off with Battlefield 3, but we had to turn the resolution way down to 640 by 480, and even then we only achieved 27 frames per second on the low settings. The footage that you see here was taken from the smoothest part of the gameplay when we were up on a rooftop, and so the frame rate wasn't really affected that much, although it did drop way below 10 frames per second when the gunplay started heating up a little bit, and so Battlefield 3 unfortunately isn't really playable on a card of this caliber. So, can it run Crysis? Well, just about. At 1024 by 768 resolution, with the low preset of course, we were able to achieve an almost steady 30 frames per second. Again, this footage has been taken from the smoothest part of our half-an-hour gameplay period, and I'm happy to report that unlike Battlefield 3, there wasn't really as much stutter or freezing, although I did see the frames drop into the low teens at times. And if you don't mind lower resolutions and the lowest settings, although the game doesn't look too great, then you wouldn't have too bad of a time with Crysis either. Another absolute classic is Fallout 3, here at 720p and the medium preset. Because it looked a little bit better than low and doesn't actually perform that much worse, we were able to achieve 29 frames per second on average, although it does feel a lot smoother than Crysis did just now. So Fallout 3 is definitely playable on this card, again providing you don't mind 30 frames per second and 720p. But before we let this thing get off too easily, I decided to put it to the test with Far Cry 3, a game that really isn't too well optimised, and it can push those older graphics cards quite hard if you were to turn the settings up. But here at 800 by 600, the recommended resolution for this card, we achieved 32 frames per second with the lowest settings and DirectX 9. Again, the game is definitely playable and I had a pretty good time with this card and this game, but in the long run I probably couldn't play at 800 by 600 resolution all day, but again that's up to you and your personal preferences, although the game did look quite bad. So moving on to by far the best result of the day, and that was Team Fortress 2 at 720p with the high settings to achieve 35 frames per second. Again, we could have turned things down a little bit to medium or even low to squeeze a little bit more frames out of this thing, but the game actually defaulted to 720p with these settings, and so we thought we'd give it a go and actually achieve mid-30s in terms of frames per second, which I don't think was too bad. Although, as I mentioned before, you probably will want to turn those settings way down for that online competitive play, because 30 frames per second dropping below 20 at times will hinder your online gaming experience. So there we have it. This has been a look back at the HD 4350. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and it's always fun taking a look back at these older cards, especially one like this that was never intended for gaming in the first place, to see how it held up over all these years. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, leave a dislike if you didn't, follow me on Twitter if you like, I'll leave my little @ thingy here, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I hope to see you all in the next one.